This video is going to be for the particular person who has a difficult time in specifically changing their behaviors and habits. Whenever it comes to, doing any sort of big change in your life, whether that's you want to switch careers, whether that's you want to lose some weight, make some better choices and habits, a lot of people, and me including in the beginning, are extremely lazy and don't want to do it because we're humans. We love to take the path of least resistance. If we have a choice between taking the stairs and the elevator, 95% of people are going to take the elevator. Why? Because it's the path of least resistance. But sometimes, in order for us to grow, in order for us to develop into the individuals that we aspire to be, into the visions and the dreams that we have, we need to do the things that are uncomfortable. But for majority of us, we don't have that inner motivation. I, for one, was blessed with internal motivation, where when I think of something, I motivate myself. I don't need any external somebody talking to my ear or, some sort of video to go hit the gym or watch some sort of motivational video. We're all wired in different ways, and one way is not better than the other. But if you are struggling with internal motivation, this is how I overcame my need for external motivation, external, videos or scrolling Instagram or TikTok and seeing somebody jacked, and then, I go get motivated to go to the gym. Or I see somebody, who's a lot more fitter than me. I'm like, I need to lose some weight as well. This is how I moved from that mentality of constantly needing motivation, needing some sort of external circumstance around me in order for me to accomplish and to work towards my goals. And I'm going to take you through the mindset and the thinking that goes through my head. So when I first started on this journey to lose weight, currently I'm at 160, 175 pounds, almost at my goal weight, and it's been a journey to say the least. And what I want to kind of highlight was that in the beginning, I was extremely lazy. I liked to, sit on the couch, do the least amount of work possible just to get by, whether that was in school, whether that was in relationships, just put minimal effort just to get a passing grade, right? In relationships, in school, in the gym, in my fitness, in my health, in my business. I never wanted to take that extra step until I started talking to myself, and my internal dialogue changed a little bit. And in order for it to change a little bit, you have to bring, or I had to bring, some external future vision of a future that I didn't want. A future that I painted so vividly that if I didn't take the actions that I wanted to take but was too lazy to take, this would happen. I started being a little bit more aware of the habits and the patterns that I was doing, scrolling most of my day, eating shit food, spending 8+ hours watching Netflix, constantly ordering out, just eating disgusting food. And I started thinking to myself, okay, where is this going to get me if I keep going down this path? Well, first and foremost, it's going to probably get me a job at McDonald's, and I'm going to be 60 years old, which is number one, what I don't like. But number two, since this is a more of a health and mindset channel, I started thinking about, okay, what would my health be like? Okay, well, I'm going to be fat, which does mean I'm going to be lazy, which means I'm not going to be able to accomplish anything. But then more importantly, I always knew I wanted to have a family, I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to raise kids that were going to better me, were going to go above and beyond me. Because I think at the end of the day, that's every parent's dream, every mother, every father's dream is for them to teach and give their kids as much life experience and knowledge as possible so that their kids can excel ahead of them, whether that be in career, business, relationships. Take everything we learned, Matthew, and apply it to your life so that you can set yourself up better, or even if your parents are successful, to the same degree, right? My parents are very successful and I look up to them very much so, to the point where I strive to be like them. I have almost complete and utter respect for both of my parents. They're extremely amazing individuals, and I would be proud to be half the man and woman my mother and father are. So I look up to them. And I wanted my kids to look up to me the same way. So I had to think, okay, what really makes me look up to my parents? Well, they're honest, they care and love for their children, they're fit, and more importantly, they spend time with kids. And then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, well, if I continue this path that I'm on right now, I'm going to be 150 pounds overweight. I'm going to be doom scrolling TikTok for the rest of my life. And remember, children are sponges. They are the biggest copycats when it comes to mimicking parents. When did I pick this up? Obviously, through reading some psychology books, but also through my own actions and habits. My dad loves black coffee. My dad loves to read every single morning as he wakes up through his daily morning routine. My mom sits every morning and reads the Bible. And slowly, as I became older and I started picking up on their habits, I realized I'm literally becoming a spitting image of them. And obviously there's some aspects that you want to pick up and start working towards and copy them, but others you want to, filter out and ask yourself, okay, as you reach like a level of consciousness and awareness of your parents' habit, it's like, okay, do you want to be like this? Do you want to do and say and act the way that they do? Because that's when maturity comes in and just your overall mind can differentiate between good habits, good choices, bad habits, bad and good actions and responses. And funny enough, I've had so many people even tell me, oh, you walk exactly the same way as your dad, and other things that aren't really coming to the top of my mind right now, but you get the point. So then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, if my child is a sponge, if my child is going to be a direct copycat of me, if I continue down this path, he's going to be even more obese than I am by the time he's 15 years old. He's going to be even more addicted to social media. He's going to be even more addicted to, whatever other addictions. Like, thank God I never got into drinking heavily. But imagine if you come back from work every single day and you just sit down on the couch, drink a beer, get angry, get aggressive. What do you think your child is going to do by the time he's 15, 18, 20 years old? He's going to pick up those exact same habits because he's recollecting and watching you, and he thinks, okay, this is normal. When in reality, you are 40, 50, 60 years old. You're picking up these things and you're doing all these actions, habits to relieve stress from a long days of work, but your child doesn't know that. Your child doesn't know the difference between a good and a bad day. He's 2, 3, 4 years old. Everything is new to him. So then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, if I keep going down this path, it kind of compounds in the same way. If you have good habits and you have a good routine and you have good daily actions that are propelling you towards goals, different directions in your life, then your child is going to notice that. I was like, okay, And he's going to become and adapt all those things and become better than you are, because he's sponging it up and seeing it at a younger age and able to start at a younger age than you were, because you might have, for example, started going to the gym, eating healthy, meditating, whatever kind of crazy shit you like to do at, let's say, 30 or 40. Right? So you had a little bit of a buffer, but imagine if your child saw that and started at, 10, 15 years old. By the time he's 30, he's going to be miles ahead of you. And that's what subconsciously, obviously, if you're not a little bit egotistical, what every parent wants from their child. I want to give birth to, 5, 6 children, and I want all of them to become more successful than me. But I know that it starts by my choices and my actions and my habits that I choose to do today. Right? Because if my child sees me come home from work and sit on my phone scrolling for an hour instead of, spending time with him or going to the gym and working out, he's, number one, obviously going to feel unloved. He's going to be like, oh, what the hell is dad doing? But then also, number two, he's going to pick up on those same habits, and it's just going to be a negative downturn and a negative compounding effect, where he's going to be, because he's going to pick up on these bad habits, and he's going to be even worse by the time he's 15, 20, 30 years old. If you're 30 years old, 40 years old right now, and you have all these bad habits, and you have a child on the way, imagine, okay, you pick those habits up maybe from your dad, maybe just from laziness, maybe because you gave up on life. And then you started at 25 and now you're 35, 45, and you're at this point in your life. Imagine if your child starts picking these things up by the time they're 5, 10, 15 years old. So that's what also helps me become a lot more internally motivated, is that I know that my current choices, decisions, and actions will not only affect me, but it creates who I am. It creates my DNA. It goes down to such a microcellular level that when, my DNA is ready to be passed on to my wife and create another child, all that DNA is going to be brought onto that child. All that DNA, all my choices, all my decisions, all my thoughts. If I was a super anxious person, if I was a super depressed person, that's why I heard, and I'm living to this right now. It was an amazing quote. I can't remember who said it. It wasn't a quote, but it was just basically I heard something through either it was a podcast or some sort of talk, where they talked and mentioned about you should not have a child and bring another human to this world and to this life until you have dealt with all your childhood traumas, until you have dealt with what is going on in here. Because everything your child will sponge, your child will absorb, and it will directly influence the man or the woman that they will become. So don't do it for yourself. Do it for your children, whether it's, studying a little bit harder to get that degree, or taking some extra courses so you can get a promotion in your job, or spending those extra few hours on, that side business of yours so that you can provide, some more financial support for your family. Or even more importantly, if it's taking that uncomfortable step and starting to go to the gym a couple times a week so that you can become a fit and healthy dad, so that your child can look up to you. Or even when it comes to, making your food choices. Imagine if in your house, in your cupboards, in your fridge, all there was processed food, fast food, junk. Your child is in this surrounded area thinking, okay, this is normal. You as a 35, 40-year-old man know this is not normal. And if you don't, newsflash, it isn't. It isn't normal to be living in a house full of processed shit. Right? Whole Foods. Hello, people. We're in the 21st century. We have AI, for God's sake. You should know what's a good diet versus a bad diet. I'm not saying you need to be perfect, but 80% of the time your diet should be consisted of whole foods. And you might have not known that because maybe your parents never taught you, or your parents, or you grew up in a household where that was the norm. To have fucking instant noodles and, like, I don't even know, like salami and bags of chips and God knows what else, mac and cheese, Kraft dinner, all this shit for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But then your child is going to grow up in that same environment and think, oh no, this is normal. Mom and dad ate this. And then imagine how they're going to grow up in the man or woman that they're going to become. So these are the thoughts that kind of go through my head and dictate the actions that I take and how I make certain choices and how I'm able to stay intrinsically motivated rather than needing some sort of, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, some motivational speaker to get me off my ass to go to the gym, some, I don't know, whatever, to eat healthier. I'm not saying, having a coach is a bad thing, because like at the end of the day, I am a coach and I am in the business of coaching people into making better decisions. But this is for the people that want to, do it themselves. This is for the people that want to start thinking a different way. Understand that your current choices and actions will affect not only your future self, but your future family, your future grandkids. Obviously, if you don't plan on having a family and you want to be single for the rest of your life, great. You're good luck, because you're probably going to be miserable anyway. But for the 95% of us that want to have a family, that want to have children, and do what we were designed to do and placed on this planet for, then do it for them. Do it for your future offsprings. Be that leader, be that role model, so that they can look up to dad one day and say, yeah, that's my fucking dad. Hell yeah. Love you guys. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Share this with somebody who is struggling with motivation and who wants to, maybe doesn't have a why and they're wondering, where should I start? If you don't know where to start on yourself, start on your future vision and plan for yourself. Work backwards. Where do you want to be? Do you want to have a family? How much money do you want your family to have? What kind of cars do you want to drive? What kind of body do you want to have? What kind of wife do you want to have? How many kids do you want to have? Where do you want to live? And then you can break it down to as small as possible, as what are the actions I need to take in order to have all those things. Subscribe if you're new. Share this with somebody. I'll see you guys in the next one. Check out another video wherever it is here. Create more than you consume. Serve others. Love everyone. Peace.